Okay, hey everyone, here we are with our 7 exits. Uh-oh, I hope everybody can see that. I'm going in and out. Uh-oh, I can't do it that way.
That's all
Well,
right. It's the
yeah,
filter.
yeah,
There we go. I can see it
there we
good.
go. I hope everybody has their copy of 7 exits. We are here with Dr. Rosenna Bakari talking about how can 7 exits help prepare us for emotional maturity. And this is a big one. How are you doing, Dr. Bakari? It's been a minute.
It has been working on finishing a book. I'm so excited. It came out September 2025. And it is my baby. I delivered. So
Yes,
I'm
you
excited
did.
to talk about what I think this book can influence in the world.
Yeah, no, like, okay, y'all, I ain't got my green screen hooked up, but you would be able to see all the stuff that I have highlighted in here. So you've been on tour. You're still on tour, actually.
I
So I
am.
really appreciate it. We really appreciate you being here as you are on tour. And so that's the big question, right? How can we get to emotional maturity and how can 7 exits help get us there?
So 7 exits: leave behind what no longer serves you. The title, at least the subtitle, speaks for itself. And the idea of it is that so many people are unsure about how to get to where they want to go in life, whether we're talking about finding a partner, whether we're talking about jumping off that career that you really want instead of having just a job that you go to that gets on your nerves, you hate getting out of bed in the morning, to whether you want to design a lifestyle around travel or more time with family. So people have this idea about what they want. And sometimes the idea is just that I don't want this. The challenge that I see with people in my practice is that they know where they want to go, but they don't know how to leave where they are. And if you don't know how to leave where you are, it doesn't matter if you have a roadmap to go somewhere else, if you can't leave where you are. And so that piece about leaving where you are is the ability to leave where you are is very much attached to this idea of emotional maturity, because it takes emotional maturity to leave where you are. It takes emotional maturity to give up living for comfort. Instead, you make choices based on alignment. It takes emotional maturity to check your indoctrination, to really understand, is this something that I inherently want and believe, or is this something I was forced or told to believe, or just a belief that I picked up because everyone else around me believed that? That's indoctrination, right? It takes emotional maturity to commit to a level of self-awareness that will inspire you rather than frighten you into comfort. So the whole book is really geared toward moving people toward a significant level of emotional maturity.
I was going to ask you, okay, what is your definition of emotional maturity? Because I think a lot of times, and you really summed that up there, because I think a lot of times we hear these phrases and we really don't know what that means, what that looks like. So yeah, thank you for that. Because I was thinking, oh, it's like this is really, it sounds like it's this really deeper sense of self-awareness that a lot of us do struggle with because we
Right,
are worried about people pleasing or, well, I can't
right,
come outside of my culture of belief, right? So yeah.
right. Yeah, I would describe emotional maturity as showing up to life whatever your environments you find yourself in, showing up to environments with flexible maturity that supports and aligns with where you want to go, right? Oftentimes, instead, we show up to environments with our disappointment, with our attachment to the familiar. We show up comfortable with conflict. We show up with all this stuff that says we're not ready to leave where we are, because those are all the bags that people have put on us since birth, right? Oh, I'm addicted to conflict. I don't even know what it feels like to be in a room and be in agreement with what people say. Because I'm paranoid that somebody thinks I'm not good enough or not smart enough or don't belong here. So my dukes are up emotionally every room that I step in. That's a lack of emotional maturity. You don't feel comfortable with vulnerability. You don't feel comfortable with vulnerability. It's difficult to align with what you really want, because your want for comfort will override your desire for lifestyle.
So let me ask you this question. Do some people, in spite of all of that, in spite of not having emotional maturity, are they still able to exit? And if they are, do they really exit?
I'm not sure if I understand the question. Sorry.
Because sometimes I think people like talk about career. If they don't have a level of emotional maturity, they may be at one level in their career, but still make it to that next level, whether that's upper management or whatever it is, but then still not have emotional maturity.
Yes, emotional maturity has little to do with achievement. So that's just an example. And some people get that confused. I'm not talking about achievement. Emotional maturity is not attached to money or status or achievement. Well, of course, we see that. So, but just because there's an assumption that people who have money are happy, that's erroneous. I love, for example, Will Smith, one of his later comments that he's been making has been about the challenge of making it to the top, how many people make it to the top only to realize that happiness is found there. Basically, he has another term for it. But and other people keep giving us this notion. Interestingly, we keep chasing money no matter how many people tell us that money is not the key to happiness. We don't believe it. We keep chasing it. So when I talk about emotional maturity, I'm talking about, again, having a life that fits for you, having a life where conflict is minimized. You live at peace. Your dukes aren't up, meaning your fists. You're not walking around with your fists looking paranoid, hoping and assuming that somebody is out to get you. When you wake up in the morning, what's on your mind? Are you happy when you get out of bed? What is the level of decision making that you are comfortable with in your life? It's about peace, joy, and internal happiness. It has little to do with achievement. We have this thing in research, as you know, because you're a doctor too, PhD too, correlation is not causation. And so what happens is that when you do these things, when you achieve emotional maturity, a level, because it's not an achievement, it's a level. When you have a degree of emotional maturity, you have a really good chance of designing the life that you want. That's correlation. So people look at people and say, oh, they must be emotionally mature, or that person who's emotionally mature designed that life. That's correlation. It's because when you have emotional or develop emotional maturity, and I've seen this in my work with many, many people, I'm always surprised and not surprised about how, as people begin to experience emotional maturity through the work of 7Xs, that so many things in their lives change, and career is often one of them. People often find that suddenly they're making more money, they have a new job, they're in a new environment, they enjoy working more, right? That's correlation. But it's not the way that people think. People think that this person is happy because they have money. No, this person has money because they're happy, and not the other way around. So we keep looking at money as if it's going to make us happy, and we won't try it the other way around. I'm saying give it a try. Try pursuing emotional maturity and personal development, and then see if that brings you the money, because you've tried it the other way before and it's not working for you. So try it this way. So that being said, those people who have reached money, they have reached money. We don't know anything about their level of emotional maturity. You cannot assume anything about someone's level of emotional maturity based on their status.
Yeah, and that's a real important point, because a lot of times we do say, and I don't know how many times I've heard it, oh, this person, has achieved, whatever it is, right? Man, they really have it all together. Like this person has it together. They're like really on top. This person, so there's a lot of assumptions made about the internal life of people based on what they've achieved, what they have materially, like whatever it is. And so, yeah, I just wanted that to come out, because yeah, people can, like you say, they can make the money. But if you were unhappy, 9 times out of 10, you make the money, you're just gonna be an unhappy person with more money, right?
Absolutely.
You know,
And if you don't believe that, please read Will Smith's biography. Please.
yeah, I heard that book was fire. Yeah, I still,
It
yeah,
is.
yeah. Um, so when as you're going through your tour, is there something that comes up a lot? Like when you have your Q&As, are people really struggling a lot with this emotional maturity?
Yes. And it does. Of course, I don't say that in the audience. I don't call people emotionally mature, and people don't identify themselves as emotionally immature. But the question often comes up about the healing journey itself. Like I hear people's fear around change, that they are not satisfied with how they are in their lives. Again, sometimes that can be their career, sometimes that can be their personal relationships, sometimes it could be their financial situation, or it could be a variety of areas. But this dissatisfaction is tied to what they admit is their complacency, which is one of the X's, by the way. Complacency is connected to their unwillingness to challenge their preference for comfort over growth. So when people talk to me about growth and what they know they need to do, what I hear is that people are very concerned about what they leave behind. People admit that they are attached to what they would have to leave behind to grow. And so that's a key point in emotional maturity, the willingness to leave behind what no longer serves you. People are afraid that that is, but I'm brilliant right now. If I pursue my dreams, I have to start at level 1. Oh, I can relate. I have to not be the smartest one in the room. I'm used to being the smartest one in the room. I'm not sure if I can handle starting all over and not knowing. I don't know that I can handle that. I don't know that I can adjust my life to lowering my income. I'm not sure if I could adapt my lifestyle to that while I grow a business. I'm not sure that I'm ready to part from my family or my friends that have no interest whatsoever in where I'm trying to go in my life and actually become obstructions to where I'm trying to go. But I'm attached to them. I'm not prepared to live without them in my corner, even though that corner is not providing support. And so people readily recognize their attraction to comfort over growth. And that's a big issue in emotional maturity.
Yeah, that is something, because growth, that's one thing about growth. It's not, it may be, it's a lot of things, and it's really great. You know, when you have that growth spurt and you really come into it, it's fantastic. But that whole process is not comfortable.
It's not comfortable until we use it enough that it becomes comfortable. Here's the thing. How many things in our lives have we achieved that have been comfortable? Was your PhD comfortable?
No. Oh God, no.
Was my bachelor's wasn't comfortable. Getting through Cornell University was not comfortable at all. Right? I think the difference is that when we do these things that are uncomfortable, many of the things that we choose to do, we step into the discomfort when we know the outcome. So even though Cornell was hard, I knew the outcome. Even though writing a dissertation was hard, I knew the outcome. Even though you do this, you know the outcome. And so I think equally aligned with people's search for comfort is people's search for predictability. People want to know. People struggle stepping into the unknown, the unfamiliar. Well, I know my best friend mistreats me, but at least I have a best friend. It's that at least where people get stuck. At least I have a best friend. If I let my best friend go, then I'm on my own. For how long, I don't know. It's the I don't know part that keeps people stuck. Emotional maturity is an acceptance of the unknown in order to align with where you want to be. You have to leave where you are. Where you are is comfort and predictability. If you don't know how to leave there, you can't get here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you talk about that, and yeah, you talked about that in 7 Exits, and I had to really stop and just be like, oh yeah, oh wow, yeah, okay. I have to get comfortable, like you said, with change and with not knowing and with not being able to control things, all of those type of patterns, right? That a lot of us have. It's like, man, if I really can't control it, and I don't know what's going to happen, and who's going to be there, and who's going to say what, da, 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 and how should I respond, then it's like, oh, maybe that's something I don't want to deal with, right? But yeah, but
Right.
in a way, we never really know. Even when we think we know, we never really know
Exactly.
how something is going to pan out. We just don't.
Right. And we don't have realistic conversations. We get so much information now from snippets, right, of people's lives, what we see. And so, and many people have had this conversation before. And so we see people in their success, nested in their success. You can't track people where people were before there. People can't track their own success. We do what we remember, especially when you have success and people start asking you about success, you start focusing on your success. You sometimes forget, or there's not enough conversation about, oh, right, but I failed the first 40 times. Oh, right, but the first audience I spoke to had 4 people in it. You don't hear a lot of those conversations. And it took me 40 hours of working behind the scene to get those 4 people there. You don't hear a lot of conversations. You just hear where people are now. And so you're always trying to get to where people are now instead of trying to genuinely understand what the path looks like. You're trying to get the comfort without discomfort.
Yeah, because I know it must sound kind of intuitive to some people that, oh, I gotta really be at the exit. Like I gotta really be where I am now and figure that. Cause we just like, oh, well, it's over there, and you just do this, and this, and you just gotta get there, and once you get there,
Right.
it'll all be okay.
Right. Even with seven X's, this is an example, right? This is a much more this is a popular book, right? And so people talking about Dr. Bakari and the seven exits book. People talk about it as if it's my first book. And sometimes people
Yeah.
ask, is this your first book? I go, no, it's my seventh.
Yeah, not by a long shot. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
But people will talk about seven exits and the popularity of seven exits, and no one will know why, because something different happened with those seven books, because it took me 6 books to write this book.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, that is true. That's very interesting. People this is it. Like you say, just focus on the success, not that the other books weren't the success. I still read The Healing Journey. Okay. That book still hits hard, right? And yeah, the other one too. The other day I was looking, okay, this is a sidebar, y'all. Okay, bear with me. The other day I was reading some snippets from Too Much Love Is Not Enough, So yeah, definitely seven exits is not it, but people do, right? Because what people do just focus on what is the latest, right? So
Right.
yeah, and I'm glad that this is the latest because it's very helpful. As we were talking before we came on, um, there were times I had to really put it down because it was just bringing stuff it was bringing stuff up, and I really wasn't comfortable with those feelings. And I'm like, yeah, but I got to really sit in these feelings. And you do give people questions in the book to really ask ourselves when those feelings are coming up to really be able to process and deal with those feelings, and not just deal with them, but really examine them and be like, okay, really create a lot of awareness around them. So I really, really appreciate that. And I really implore everybody out there to really get this book and really work it, right? Because some people don't just collect, right? Some people just, whatever the latest self-help book or whatever it is that's out there, oh, they on it, they got it, and then they just going through it. And while it's an easy read, it's not an easy read, if you understand what I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, again, it comes back to the work. And I think when we were talking earlier before we came on, you mentioned that the other part of concern of people is, well, how long is it going to take me to heal?
Mm-hmm.
You
Yes.
know, and it's going to, I'll let you talk about that.
Right. So that's another critical part of the book, and why I at least try and break it down into these 7 components. Because oftentimes that's not the case. People talk about healing as this one conglomerate thing, right? Or professional development is one thing. And so the 7X's at least tries to break it down into basically saying, when people say, well, you become self-aware. Self-aware of what? And so the 7X's are really just the realms in which people can become aware of, keep track of, monitor, consider in their own growth journey. Because it is a journey. And the 7X's are not a path like go do this and then this and then this and then this. No, it's really trying to lay out a journey for you that you can actually keep track of, in terms of always going back. If you're struggling, what am I struggling with? I'm struggling, because I'm stuck on complacency. Oh, I'm struggling because that hyper ego is just when I go here, right? And so it gives you language to look at. It gives you professional growth language to apply to yourself. So that's a big thing. And hopefully in doing that, it gets at a little bit of the impatience that we have with the healing journey. The healing journey is a never ending journey. It's not a destination. But when we talk about development, the word development itself inherently assumes that it's ongoing. It's development. It's not stage where you get to a stage and then you're done. It's development. And so how long it takes depends on where you are and how much of the work you're actually doing. It depends on whether or not you're in an environment where the work is admired, encouraged, supported. If your immediate surrounding supports the healing work, then you're going to heal faster, right? If you are in a world that supports facades, task-oriented achievements, external validation, then you're going to struggle with this, right? It's not going to come easy. The more you practice, and I always tell my clients, practice is practice. It's all practice. Nobody's getting this right all of the time. It's all practice. And the more you're willing to practice seeing the reflections of yourself in the world, in your relationships, in how you show up, the more you're willing to see, the more emotional maturity will be available to you. But this piece is important. In having it be development, the goal is not to be miserable during development. Once we accept development, then it's a process. It's not like you're miserable the entire healing journey. No. So here's some things that you'll notice as you develop emotional maturity. Look for these signs because development is ongoing, but you'll notice fewer things trigger you. Fewer things will trigger your disappointment, your frustration, your anger. Fewer things will make you put up your dukes and fight in the world because you'll start to live with acceptance and compassion. So you will not be triggered as easily. The second thing, when you are triggered with negative emotions or unuseful or unhealthy emotions that come up that don't serve you, when those emotions are triggered, because they will be still triggered sometimes. So they won't be triggered as frequently. And when they are triggered, it won't last as long. The triggers will not last as long. So if you're used to staying mad at people for a month, maybe that'll pass and you'll get it down to a week. And it'll not because you're doing anything. This is just the process of emotional maturity. And so you won't be triggered as frequently, and your triggers will not last as long. And the things that trigger you will be fewer and fewer. Some of the things that used to trigger you will not trigger you. And so those are things that you will notice. And it's important, it's so important to notice those growths on a path to emotional maturity. Because if you don't, otherwise you'll keep asking yourself, when am I going to get there? When am I going to get there? When am I going to get there? Every day you're there. You're right where you need to be. And the work continues. Even when you're at a point where you have few triggers or whatever, there's something that's going to come up. You're right where you need to be. The work continues. The work does not stop.
Yeah, I'm really so glad that we are really having this conversation because when I got to the first chapter, and that's the other thing I really like about the book is that you really don't have to go chronologically through it, right? You can just pick something that just speaks to you and just go for it and really just get a lot of benefit. What I really appreciated about the first chapter too, when we talk about hyper ego, was how you break down the defenses of the ego with these descriptions. And it was like, oh my God, okay, I can identify this one and that, or, within what I do, with how I respond to things and do things. And when you talk about us confusing the ego as our personality, I was like, oh You know, like, so that's what I really, you know, then this is indicative of all your work that I've read, is, you know, your ability to really put really complex concepts and information in a way that we can just really understand and relate to it in our own lives. So it's like, just when I started that part, I was like, okay, yeah, now I can identify when this is happening, right? If I just take that little pause, I can be like, oh, and then I can see, yeah, I do have a pattern of doing that, right? So then I can be more aware. And this is what I really appreciate. And that's like throughout the work. I really do appreciate that.
Well,
So
thank
not a
you.
whole bunch of guesswork here, folks. I mean, like I said, it's an easy read, but it's not an easy read because I go back and, like I said, I got 50 things highlighted, you know, and I have to write in the margins, and you know, because you know, if you're doing the work, you know, the work is the work. That's the thing, you know,
The work is the work.
it's not gonna happen overnight. And what you said about this is lifelong, and it's just interesting that we're willing to accept lifelong in terms of acquiring outside knowledge, but not thinking about lifelong in terms of acquiring knowledge about ourselves. You know?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And again, I think that goes back to this fear of the unknown, right? Which is why we have to get to a level of emotional maturity.
Yeah, I'm just like, she come up with these seven, you know? I was like, wow, like this is really incredible. I'm not gonna go through the whole seven here, y'all. Y'all go ahead and get the book, okay? But I'm like, how she come up with these? I mean, this work is really brilliant, Dr. Bakari, seriously. You know, and it's like, man, you know, yeah, this is, yeah, all those exits.
This,
So, yeah.
thank you. Well, the seven exits is really a product of the work that I put together when I started my empowerment partnering. And part of that came from, of course, my academic training and also my personal experience in counseling and training other counselors, and really taking an analysis of what some of the shortcomings were in the helping profession, and then designing a helping tool for me to work with clients on empowerment, not just feeling better. And so that's why I designed an empowerment practice, not a counseling practice or a coaching practice, but an empowerment practice. And so when I built my empowerment practice, it was important for me to be able to identify the areas that were critical for people to experience empowerment. And so that's what the 7X's is based on.
Mm. Now, will everybody need all seven exits, or will some people need two? Will people need, like, you
they're,
know, or is
they
this?
they are areas, they work together, I would say, because it, you know, is, as you mentioned earlier, it's an individual journey, right? And so if you I liken it to a house, and in fact, as you know, there's a very significant example of the house related to being related to transformation. And so if you have a house, do you use all the rooms at once? No, some rooms you need to really make sure they are clean if you're going to have a party, right? What's a significant room if you're having company? The bathroom, right? Everybody goes and run and clean the bathroom up, right? And so versus if you're having a get together with some friends, maybe you want to make sure the patio is clean. But it's I liken it to a home. Your transformation, your internal thing is your inner home, your internal home. And so that the exits are not this room or that room. What's the most important? It's like asking what's the most important room in your house. Well, That depends on the day of the week. That
Mhm.
depends on what you're using a home for and who you're inviting in, right? But you buy a house, or you're in your house according to how you want to use that house and what that home is for. Not everybody's living room is a great room, right? Not everybody has a den or attic, right? Not everybody. So it's very individualized, and it's meant to be that. You call it a easy read. I call it or my writing intention was for it to be a gentle read. It's a gentle read that really invites people into their inner home, right? So that they can decide how it gets designed and what it's supposed to feel like for them. And so each exit is like a room. What room do you need to pay most attention to today? And when you work on that room doesn't go away. You get to experience the beauty of that room. You've worked on that, right? You've paid more attention to it. So that's how I like to think about it.
Well, I like that you use gentle. Yeah, I like
Mhm.
that. I just like how that sounds, that it's a gentle read, which it is. And me saying it's easy read, but it's not an easy read, is to let you all out there know, because sometimes when it's, something is written by Dr. So and so, then people like, oh man, it's gonna be all of this academic jargon
Right.
and this, that, the other. And it's not that, right? It's not that, because Dr. Bakari really want us to get it, and she really wants it to be helpful. And like you said, it's also helpful for other practitioners, to really, yeah.
This is a great bibliotherapy book, and I have had several practitioners uh, compliment me on it and say that they will be using it in their practice, recommending it to their clients to read as well. It's a great bibliotherapy book, above many of the others. I will say, I won't name names, but if you use books in your practice, this is a book that comes highly recommended by other counselors and therapists.
Absolutely. Well, tell us, where is your next stop on your tour?
So today is the end of September. My next stop is Colorado Springs, October 3rd, and Syracuse, New York, October 17th. Oh, I missed one. Dallas, October 11th. And so those are my coming up tours. And there are more that are always being added to the calendar, added to the schedule, because this is a time that is so important that I invite people into themselves. I'm inviting people home. I invite you home to yourself, where you can learn to be comfortable with your inner workings, not because there's something wrong with you, but because you get to live your best life from the best position. And so it's an invitation. So I'm so excited to be going on tour and delivering this invitation one city at a time.
Yeah, this is great and so exciting. Definitely get your books. You get your book at 7exits.com. You can get your book on Amazon. You can get your book at rosennabakari.com. Like, you can get this book.
And
So,
it's available on Audible, digital,
oh, see,
Audible, print.
there you
It's
go.
out
There
there.
you go. You getting ready to do that road trip. Hey, get that book. So, wonderful, Dr. Bakari. So good
Thank
to
you.
see you and talk about your
Yes.
book. I have to continue reading because, like I told you, what am I on page 65 here? So I'm getting there. I'm getting there because, like I said, I have to stop and do my work with it and write things out. 'Cause I'm like, ooh, that was kind of heavy today. I think, I'll take a break from that for a minute and come back to it. but
I will.
absolutely worth it.
Here's my advice for people who are serious about the work. Like you said, some people just want to collect books, and I'm happy with for you to just have the book on your shelf. I'm not mad at that either. But when people are really serious about the work, or let me talk about myself. When I'm serious about my work and I want to really get the essence of a book, because people have different approaches. And so, especially when I was beginning my healing journey, and The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle was it was my Bible, right? I mean, I just ate it up and stuff. And I was new to the healing journey. And so what I would do and what I recommend people do is get the audio version. Get the Audible version. And you can't get that from me. You have to get it through Audible. I don't have any stake in Audible, so you can get it through Audible. And here's the difference. If you are new, some of the things that you hear let's just say will go over your head. You won't be ready to hear them. Your ego will say stop, nope, and it'll take you somewhere else. And I want to say that's perfectly okay. That is perfectly okay. And so the reason I recommend the Audible is because if you are new to this work, you'll just keep listening. Because as I've said before, this work is not meant for your head. It is meant for your heart. So I don't care if you don't understand it. I don't care if you're not ready for it. That's the ego. It will interfere. If you keep listening, your heart will pick it up. Your heart knows what to do with these words. I promise you, your heart knows what to do with these words. And so if you have the Audible version, the part of your brain that listens is different than a part of your brain that reads. Reading is totally cognitive. You must do several actions. Your brain must engage in several actions in order for you to read words on a page. Your brain doesn't have to do that to listen. And so it frees you up because your brain is not as engaged. And so it's less of a filter to your heart. So that's what I recommend. If you struggle with reading through self-help books, don't read them, listen to them, and don't even try to understand it. It's totally okay if you don't understand it, if you don't agree, if it doesn't make sense to you, just keep listening and listen to it again and again. Listen to it as much as get through it as much as you can, then put it down. Come back a month later, listen to it again. Let your heart pick up a little bit more. Listen to it again. When I tell you over the years I have listened, in fact, I can't even count how many times I've listened to The Power of Now. I can't count it. I can't count it. Because every time I developed into more and more maturity, I knew my heart would pick up more. So it never sounded the same. I finally stopped listening to it because I feel like I could have quoted every word. So but that's just to say, I know a lot of people like a physical book in their hands. And again, I'm not mad at that. Put it on your shelf. I like that. But if you're struggling to read and to read and grab onto the concept, and you get stuck trying to figure out what this means for you, which is important that you do that. But if you get stuck there, go to the audio version and just listen. So that's my recommendation.
What I like about you, Dr. Bakari, because you don't sit up here and act like, I got it all together and I've been there and I'm at the end of the journey and now I'm just trying to help you slugs. Just go ahead and get there. Look, I listen to The Power Now a million times. You talk about, hey, on my own journey that's continuous right now, that because you keep it 100, and that's what I appreciate about you. So, any last
Thank
words
you.
you want to give the folks before we go and come back next week? Or yeah.
No, just that I really do hope people pick up the book, and it doesn't matter if you get it from Amazon or get it from me. The only difference is if you order it from 7x's.com, that does come directly from me, and it will have a signature on it. I will sign it before I send it. That's the only difference. But it doesn't matter if you get it from Amazon. It doesn't matter if you get the audio, the print, the digital. Do what's best for you, what works for you, but read it and please share it. Don't keep it to yourself. This is not a secret. We don't want 7x's to be a secret. Don't keep it to yourself. Please share it.